I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. This month is all about clarity. We are going to clear some things up in the business sphere, and we're starting with your business foundations.
Absolutely. So business foundations, vision, business plan, SOP, structure, your mission statement, your sales cycles, your sales process. Like these are fundamentals or foundations that are within your business that if they're not clear to you, then they're not clear to others. And if you can't explain it at the drop of a dime, that means that most likely that you are holding yourself back from being able to have the conversion and even the retention that is possible.
You know, and I always think about when you come to your actual business structure, how you set up your business from the very, very beginning. If you can't say clearly whose job it is to do what thing, if you don't know that inherently, instinctively, like, oh, so-and-so is in charge of marketing, so-and-so is in charge of finances, you've already got a problem in your foundations because you need to know whose job is what, not just for getting shit done, but just for the clarity of your vision, for where you're going forward, who to go to when things aren't going right. If everybody is kind of wishy-washy on where they're supposed to be, how do you expect anything to get done with any kind of effectiveness?
Oh yeah. I feel like I talk about this a cajillion times a week. It's insane. And even those of you who do not have employees, maybe you have VAs or EAs or some kind of like job for hire, right? The clearer the job description is, the more effective and efficient, the happier the outcome, period. Because what's clear to you doesn't mean that it's clear to other people. And with job descriptions, I love that you brought that up first, because a lot of times, and again, regardless if they're a contractor or employee, if there's not a real firm of what their job description is supposed to be, what their actionable items are, how do you expect them to, one, take ownership of things? Because they're just kind of like taking things as it goes. How do you expect them to be proactive, not just ownership, but proactive? How do you rate them on? How are they going to make goals? How are you doing evaluations? Because there's no real fundamentals or foundations. There's no clarity around the concept in which what they're supposed to be doing. I love that you did that. Listen, what I keep thinking of is it needs to be clear enough that you can explain it to a 5-year-old. And a 5-year-old can actually tell you back what you do. If your kids don't understand what you do, you can't explain it in 5-year-old terms, then you need to do a little work behind it.
Yeah, it reminds me of when back in the olden days when I was getting my degree in English, and they used to always say, if you can't explain what a word means, you don't actually know what that word means. And it's the same thing when it comes down to your business. If you can't explain it in 5 simple words that a 5-year-old can understand, then nobody's going to understand what's happening. And that muddiness creates a lot of conflict and uneasiness, even if it's just subconsciously planting those red flags. You know, I see this a lot, or we see this a lot when things aren't going well in the business. When things are going well, it's like, oh, we'll just figure it out and we'll go with the flow and we'll all kind of step in where we need to. But when shit hits the fan, suddenly nobody knows who to point fingers at, but everybody's trying to point fingers at somebody. And that's where it really starts to muddy it up, because inevitably within your business, there's going to be times where things don't go your way. And if you haven't reached that point in your business yet, I don't even know, like talk to me, you're like a unicorn, or you're not pushing yourself and you're not actually going anywhere in your business. That's where we really see a lot of that need for the clarity, because when it's convoluted, when there's so many things are going on, when
when shit hits the fan,
it's always when shit hits the fan, we really reevaluate it.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to a client recently, and being upset that certain things didn't get done in a big launch, but then realizing that nobody had been assigned that thing. And so
That's always my favorite.
Oh yeah, with
even
no
with
one
our,
to be assigned.
even with ourselves, it's taking responsibility of where the ball was dropped and where the lack of clarity was. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know we can talk on and on about this. You know, when we brought this up, I thought of, I don't know why this one particular story, because it happens quite often, but this one particular interaction of, I've always been a content contributor for many organizations. And there was this one, I was essentially leading sales training, and kind of the sales aspect of this content for a group of women entrepreneurs. And I asked this woman, you know, what's your offer? And she's like, oh, well, you know, it's curated based on each person. I can't remember exactly what she was. I want to say she was like she wasn't a consultant. I want to say she was more in like health and wellness, but I can't remember exactly. But it was a service base. You know, it's curated based on this and that. And I was like, okay, well, where does your pricing start? So let's go there. Like, I went with the easier one first, but let's see what she says about pricing. Same thing. Each hour might be different depending on what they're doing. And so what that tells me is a couple of things. First of all, she's not clear, but she could be not clear on purpose because she wants to curate the service based on the price point in which that person can pay, which is not a scalable business. That's not even a sustainable way to approach things at all, especially in the small community in which this person lived, or that they really don't know and that they felt a little bit like maybe embarrassed, and they were just kind of like saying, oh, I curate everything
To save face.
Yeah, to save face, or even as a, like, I don't know. I would say with her, it was more ego driven versus the I'm not sure and kind of flailing around. And at the end of the day, when you do that, you are preventing yourself from, first of all, other people being able to refer you, also really being able to hone in on the clients and be able to convert them correctly, because a lot of times people are going to ask. If you're telling them, oh, everything's specially curated, they're going to think money sign, money sign, money sign, money sign. Oh, this person's just going to see what they can get from me. And that's not the way that you want to go. And even for us that curate things, you know, even with me back in the day when I was doing a lot of consulting, I would say, listen, obviously it depends on what the needs are, but my consulting starts at X amount a month and up. And so that way it gives them a baseline, and that way I can kind of feel the waters. Like, if they can't afford 1,000 USD plus a month, then maybe I need to refer them to somebody else. And so it is so important, even when you're a one-person show, it's not just about you. And I think about this one individual, it's like, I saw through her, I knew why she was doing it. At the end of the day, you're just not going to scale and sell, and like, people aren't going to be able to refer you because of that. And so it's like, get clear.
Yeah, the clarity comes about in a lot of different ways when you're looking at your business and looking across all aspects of it. But it really does start at the very, very basic foundations of your business. When you started your business, what is your entity? Is it an LLC? Is it a sole proprietorship? Is it an S Corp, an umbrella corporation? What is it that you're working with? And then have you set up those contracts and systems from the very, very beginning? And if you are at a place in your business, I mean, a lot of people who listen are sole proprietors, and that's great too. You're not have quite to that scale yet, but we still recommend that you start the right way rather than having to backtrack later and be like, oh crap, 6 years down the road, now it's a big problem that we never did it. If you've got a few extra hours, go through and actually see like whose jobs or what's in my articles of organization. Do I have articles of organization? Do I have a contract written out for a partnership? What are each person's duties, roles, and really clearly identify what those are. You can always change it. In fact, we recommend that you revisit those over and over again. It's a living document. You're not just going to sign it and then 50 years it's the same as it was from the very beginning. That's a lazy way to do business. So how can you get crystal clear on the priorities of the business, on the direction of the business, on the roles and responsibilities within the business for each person? And even if you are a sole proprietor, it's important to lay down what your expectations are for the business and where your wheelhouse is. Like, what is it that you really want to bring to your company versus what are you hoping to outsource? Those kinds of things can also be added into it, because as the owner, you should be more big picture and not minutia. So how is your business going to allow you to grow in that direction if you don't have any systems or structure set up? You don't have that clear foundation laid down from day one. And again, it doesn't have to be day one. Not everybody is thinking that way. But if you're in day 500 million, you should still be able to revisit and create that structure, because that structure, as we say a lot, creates the freedom. That's what's going to allow you to scale and to grow in a way that is sustainable long term.
Well, I would say day one, obviously, that's the perfect world, right? People want to set everything up, but the truth is nobody is like that. What we will say though is always when, like with the structure that Amanda's talking about, like plan for ahead. Like if you know that you're going to grow to XYZ, like you want to build a business and the fundamentals and the foundations and the plan that you can grow into and not cap it and cap yourself. And so, because it can always make it difficult to do things. That doesn't mean that switches and changes and looking over things. Plans are eating, breathing, living documents. They're not placeholders. So definitely looking at that. So here's a couple of places I think that you can definitely start to audit your SOPs, audit your vision, audit your business plan if you have one. If you don't, create one. You can create a simple one pager, like have ChatGPT ask you all the questions. Come on, use AI. Like it's so easy nowadays. Tell them what type of business you have and say, I need to create a business plan, one sheeter, and I want you to ask me a bunch of questions to answer. So that way I can create that. You want to, we call it like the CEO hours, and we're going to talk about that again, all the time because we love that, but auditing what you have. Ask your team members, like, what is it that we do? See how clear it is to them. Ask the people around you, what is it that I do? See how clear it is to them. Who's your ideal client? Ask them the questions, poll people and see what they have to say. And that's going to tell you how clear you are. When you have employees and EAs and contractors, ask them what their roles and responsibilities are, not just the title in which they carry. What are the daily tasks and the 1, 2, 3s of what they have to do? And these are just like some simple places to start. It doesn't have to be convoluted or overcomplicated, but just start somewhere. Maybe it's one Saturday or one Friday a month that you're going through all of this to just kind of improve everything, or half a day a week to just improve everything, depending on how much time and capacity that you have to be able to do so. But you want to make sure that you're working on the right things. And without clarity, you do not know if you're working on the right things in order to drive revenue, in order to drive scalability, in order to drive any type of growth.
Absolutely. And you talk about polls. They can be fun, interactive polls that you do with your team, with even your clients. I recently did one was a word cloud scenario where it's describe the company culture, what's our ideal client, and going through and having the team decide or to say what they thought the ideal was. And so you can really kind of see where the disconnect is, because if everybody's saying it's X, but you've been saying Y from the start, well, maybe they're not on the same page with you, or maybe the culture of your company has adapted in a way that you weren't expecting, and that is opposite of what your plan is. So use that kind of real-time data to see what is clear in your business, because sometimes, particularly as the owner versus employee, and the more degrees of separation you have in that, your original vision and what you think is going on, it might even differ from your business partner. It might differ from the managers on your team. It might differ from the lower levels within the company as you trickle down into the infrastructure. So doing those polls to understand your company culture, to see the clarity that is being projected throughout your company, can shed a lot of light into why things might not be connecting the way you want them to when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to your messaging. There's a lot of ways that I know I say this a lot of times, it always trickles down, but it really does. So look at how clear we can make our businesses, because that foundation of where you want to be and where you want to go is absolutely essential when it comes to really looking clearly at where you're trying to go.
Yep. Clear business foundations. All right. That's our simple take on it. There are lots of other things that we can cover, and we can actually do an episode or training on each of the aspects as well. But we like to keep these short and sweet and just give you a little bit of a taste. So tell us what you're working on to gain more clarity around what aspect of your business fundamentals or foundations. Put it into the chat, in the comments down below, if you're on YouTube, whatever, and share this with somebody who needs to hear it. A little bit of clarity in their day.
Make sure you are liking and subscribing in all the places, and we will see you soon.
Till next time.
Get after it.
Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to the pursuitofbadasserie.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.